And we're back.
We're
Welcome.
live.
We
We
are
are
live.
live. Just
Yes.
doing sound check, just double checking the levels. Here we
Yes.
are in the
One, two, three.
house.
Check, check, check. One, two, three. So good to be
Donald
back with
Kent.
you. Yeah, good to be back with you. We have
Yes,
a really cool show today, actually.
we
Do
do.
you
I'm
want to?
just, I'm just trying to get comfortable. So yeah, we. It was suggested actually one time before by someone in the chat. I forget his name, so forgive me, but you know who you are. And yeah, you suggested pancreation. It's something I'd came to learn about some time ago, doing a podcast with Sven. And yeah, I mean, we're both into martial arts.
Yeah.
And we wanted to do a bit of a sort of a more white pill and health and wellness
Nice.
topic.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be delving into some history on the pancreation, a, uh, a martial art, ancient martial art from Greece, and we're going
Yes.
to look at the history of it
Mm-hmm.
and draw and create something based on that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just in general, talk about some health and wellness stuff and our experiences with martial arts and things like that, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
some motivation into how to maintain health and so on. I know
Mm-hmm.
myself, I'm looking to maintain my fitness again. I let myself go a bit past a couple of months, but
No,
yeah, yes, it happens to the
it
best of
does.
us.
It does. Yeah.
So yeah,
Especially when life has those little curveballs, then you gotta get back on track again, right?
yeah, exactly. So um, I'll just read out the intro that we've got there for Pancration,
Go
and
ahead.
then we can dip in and out just to give everyone a heads up. So Pancration was
Mm-hmm.
an ancient Greek martial art that combined techniques of both boxing and wrestling, making it
Mm-hmm.
one of the earliest forms of mixed martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
Introduced in the Olympic Games in 648 BC, Pancration was known for its minimal rules, which allowed a wide range of striking and grappling techniques. Com-
Mm.
con- Competitors could win by submission, knockout, or if the opponent was unable to continue. And Pancration was celebrated for its demonstration of skill, strength, and endurance.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, it kind of seems to be describing mixed martial arts today, doesn't it? To a certain
Right.
extent.
Right. I did some research on it, and that's what almost everybody says is that it was the original mixed martial arts, which I think is kind of fascinating how it ties in with what people do today. You know what's popular today in sport martial arts.
Yeah.
So, and you
So
have a background in mixed martial arts, I believe, correct?
yeah, well, I did Muay Thai boxing for a while from the age of about 15, and
Mm-hmm.
I did it for a number of years, on and off. It was never solid, consistent, like for years on end, but it
Mm-hmm.
was, I'd go regular wherever I could. And it
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Mm-hmm.
tapered off from my 30s. It got less and less, I'd say. But I
Mm-hmm.
would say I had a good 15 to 20 years of solid experience with it.
Excellent. Wow. That's awesome. No, there's a lot to say. I don't. Do you want to? Maybe we should do a little bit of reading on the Greek martial art. You know, since you prepared a lot of information on that.
Okay, well, let's talk about some key facts about pancreation. So, the origins and etymology. Pancreation means all powerful or
Mm-hmm.
all strength in Greek, and it
Mm-hmm.
highlights the comprehensive nature of the sport, which combines elements from various forms of combat.
Mm-hmm.
The Olympic debut was introduced into the Olympic Games in 648 BC and quickly became one of the most popular events demonstrating the Greek admiration for physical prowess and combat skills. And
Mm-hmm.
then another point, rules and technique. The sport had very few rules, no biting, no outgouging. Everything else, including strikes, joint locks, and choke holds, was permitted.
Mm-hmm.
So it made it brutally effective, a brutally effective form of combat fighting. Yeah, and
Mm.
we'll just touch on the training and preparation. Athletes trained rigorously, combining strength and conditioning exercises with technique drills. Training often included sparring, strength building routines, and techniques borrowed from boxing and wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Actually, I want to ask you a question then. In your training in mixed martial arts, how did you go
Yeah.
about sparring? Like, what is sparring and how do you do it?
So
And what's it for also? What's it train?
so in Muay Thai, sparring was the thing by which you kind of defined your skill set. There was we in Muay Thai we didn't have grades for you didn't have belts as such.
Mm-hmm.
That was more kickboxing.
Yeah.
So you sparred, you did the drills, you did the techniques on pads, and then you would drill and practice your techniques in a real life kind of situation. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, we wouldn't go too hard, um, or sometimes you wouldn't, sometimes you would. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I mean, I've sparred in at times sort of like nearly full power before,
Mm-hmm.
but that's you can't really sustain that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's literally just to sharpen your skills, to refine, get your timing down, because
Mm-hmm.
you can punch on pads and that, but
Yeah.
you can't be the perfect pad hitter and then transition that into real life and think you're going to be some Bruce Lee or Jackie Chan type or
Right.
Chuck Norris. You have to
Yeah.
practice in a simulated environment where you can time other time their body language, get reads on them and things, and be creative. It's where you bring it all together, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I personally I enjoyed learning the techniques that the instructor taught us. His name was Master Lek,
Hmm.
and he was an old more Thai guy, and
Yeah.
yeah, he
Mm-hmm.
was pretty. He was like first generation from Thailand. He was a master, and
Oh.
he had like 300 fights and won
Holy cow.
most of them.
Oh.
So yeah, it was when the wave of Muay Thai was kind of, they were leaving the East and coming through to the Western nations and teaching, I guess. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how it started out. But yeah, I mean, it was fun. It was good conditioning,
Oh
and
yeah. Yeah.
I used to play a lot of football. That's soccer to you guys, but
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
and
We need a
I.
translator on this show. We need a translator. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of soon lost my love for football, um,
Okay.
and just focused on uh, doing Muay Thai. And
Okay.
I mean, because I was playing football a lot, my kicks were very strong, and
Oh yeah. Yeah.
in terms of like volleying and that, I was a
Sure.
general striker in football, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah, it transitioned quite well into the fitness side, and then the ability
Nice.
to kick and that. So, how about
Nice.
yourself? What's your experience with martial arts? I know there's a lot. So,
It's a gigantic story over decades. I'm trying to think the systems I've studied. I started off with what's his name, Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do, which
uh-huh.
was like just being thrown into the pool. The teacher I had would teach me some techniques for half hour, and then we would spar for like an hour or two. you know,
Okay.
and essentially he was really training me to be his sparring partner so he could keep himself fit. But I do the same thing. So anyway, that was good. And then I did Hungar Kung Fu, which is a traditional southern style, which is 5 animals. Generally it's snake, crane, tiger, panther, dragon.
Tiger uppercut.
Yeah, yeah, it's all of the
You
very
know
first.
Sagat from Street Fighter. He's
Yeah, there you go, there you go. So
you must know. I know you're not a gamer, but you must know Street Fighter and that.
oh
Yeah.
sure, yeah, man. I mean, that's if of all the games that I like to play, I like the fighting games like that for sure. But anyway, then I went to Shaolin in New York City, which is that's like the Harvard of kung fu.
Uh-huh.
And that in a sense is way more fine tuned. It's Olympic level martial arts, so your training is extremely hard, and you're doing really high level stuff. I was younger. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
I moved to Taiwan, and I lived with a Tai Chi master, did that for a year, and then I did a long fist for about 2 or 3 years after that. And then I came
Mm-hmm.
back and I joined another school, which was a Tibetan Buddhist school that had kung fu, and they had all these different animals and very like kind of rare esoteric things, like you learn how to do brick breaking, lots and lots of qigong,
Did
lots
you
of
ever
just.
break bricks?
I only got to the phase where you blow out candles with your chi from a distance. So
Okay.
it's a long training. It's a very long system of training to get that level, and it's just hard to how like life happens, and like some life this that and so I just didn't complete the training.
Okay.
Anyway, so then I became friends with a guy who is a Wing Chun teacher, and he has his own school, etc., etc. And so we started a sparring club, and we did that for about like 8 years.
Wow.
And I'm still doing it now, so I would say I'm going on to like 9, almost 10 years of this kind of sparring club. And with the sparring club, you mostly were his students, so I'm very good at sparring Wing Chun guys. Wing Chun is like a very short, close in style of martial arts, very short range, that combines snake and crane into one system.
Wing Chun, isn't that
Yeah.
directly from Bruce Lee?
Correct. I mean, there's many Wing Chun schools and teachers, but this particular guy is in the Bruce Lee lineage. So his
Okay.
teacher's teacher was a student of Yip Man, who there's been movies made of Yip
Yip
Man and all
Man.
that stuff.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I love that film, Ip Man. It was
yeah, yeah.
Ip Man 1, and Ip Man 2 could get away with, but
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
yeah, they were awesome. I mean, I
Right.
remember actually watching that film and then trying to incorporate it into my
Hmm.
sparring once, and
Hmm. Hmm.
it was actually very effective. Very
Yeah,
effective.
his master would come every year from Hong Kong and do like week long seminars with the students. People would drive in from Canada and California and everything, just to be with the master. And I did a
Hmm.
little kind of a little mini documentary where I was just taking video for them to help them out with their website and stuff. But and I'm from a different system, so a lot of time in kung fu, they there's like a, I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of a distrust of people from other martial arts systems, and you're not
Oh
really
yeah.
allowed into the club and stuff, so it was kind of a thing. But I got to play hands. That's the kind of the Chinese term for sparring, play hands with the master. And I had no illusions that I was gonna beat him or something. There's no contest. The guy is like
It's like
soaring
Way
through.
of the Dragon, where some guy comes into the new guy's town. I want fight you.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna take down your school. No, it's funny how we always have these movie references. But anyway,
Yeah.
there's a type of strike that they do that it feels like someone's dropping a ton of bricks on you. It's they use qigong, they use physics in a certain way that they're not really, commercial martial arts know nothing about these kind of techniques and such. So anyway, we did some sparring, and then he dropped one of those on me. And normally you'd just kind of fall to the ground like a sack of potatoes. But from my training in Hungar, I learned how to channel that through me and into the ground to neutralize it. So that, I don't know from anyone else's perspective, but from my perspective, was an amazing experience. Yeah, of course, it was painful, but it would have been 10 times more painful and possibly even damaging had I not done that. So knowing
Right,
how
right.
to like transfer energy if someone strikes you, and you let that momentum through your body into the earth. It's
So
about
you roll over
connectivity.
basically. Yeah.
Not really. There's within Chinese martial arts, there's the connective tissue is probably the most important thing. It's not about your bones or your muscles as much as it is about your tendons. So that's a kind of a almost like an electrical system in between the other parts, and so it has a like a buoyancy to it, and then if your body is buoyant and you have a good sense of gravity, your center of gravity, the connectivity of all the joints together in that buoyant quality, and something hits you, then you're like a beach ball. It just kind of flows through you, kind of like a bubble in a sense. It's hard to kind of explain, but this is
Yeah,
part of
yeah.
the training. It's part of the training. And the same, so because when I'm back to sparring. I'm actually going sparring after this show. um
Awesome.
and yeah, a lot of it is the kind of physical. You like my hands are my eyes. When I feel, if I'm connected to somebody else, I can feel which way they're pushing me, and I can either push against it or I can move with it. And that's the kind of the philosophy of the yin yang being applied to martial arts. So it's you once you make contact with the other person, their intention. Because the
Yeah,
body
yeah.
shows their intention. It's so like for me, I want to get in, entering into the zone of fighting is a whole art in itself. How to enter and before you even make contact.
Oh yeah,
uh,
I used to uh, I would call it, and I don't know if this was what other people would do, but I would often try and kind of build in patterns and
mhm.
and almost pre-program their response, to what I'm
Yes,
gonna do.
excellent, excellent, yeah.
I would kind of, I remember, and I didn't even know that I was aware that I would do this, but I
Hmm.
kind of learned afterwards. Like, say we would have an exchange, and then kind of like I'd pull back, and then I would kind of like, I caught myself doing this once. I kind of lifted up my hands 3 times or so, and nodded
Hmm.
up my head, and I knew in
Yeah,
his head that he thought I was going to go high, because I
yeah,
conditioned a response in him by
sure.
giving a tell that I was, gearing to go high, and
Right.
then I just came straight down the bottom underneath his
Hmm.
attack, which obviously he thought he was going to get me. He thought I was going to be a certain place, but I wasn't.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So this is, I think, what you would might maybe call the art of war, and that is that it's the use of deception. Um,
Okay.
yeah, and I mean, you used a very excellent example. In boxing and such, they have things like feints and all kinds of you know
Yeah. Yeah.
different things that they do where you if you sense that somebody's using a certain, even if they're entering with like their right leg or something, then you use every bit of information that you can to kind of calculate and strategize in real time, like how am I going to interact with this person, how am I going to break their structure. um
Yeah.
it's like they build a better lock, we build a better key, that kind of thing, where but you're
Uh
doing it
huh.
in real time, in the moment. Which that to me is one of the greatest benefits of sparring, is that you're learning how to strategize in real time. A lot of schools, because they're businesses, teach routines, which are certainly like useful, and you can use these routines and such, but reality, in as far as I am concerned, is more chaotic, and it's more plastic, if you will. It changes. There's so many hidden variables, and like the pieces on the chessboard are moving all the time. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so
For sure.
if you're stuck into a rigid, like structure of I do this routine, do this, then do this, and A, B, C, D, whatever,
Uh-huh.
then you're really not understanding the true nature of what it is to do martial arts and human combat and such. So there's a chaos element there that so for myself I've developed a kind of chaos pattern, if you will, like a chaos
Okay.
philosophy. So when I go in, I'm very, very unpredictable. Like everybody who's ever sparred me always says you're extremely unpredictable. And that's what you want. You don't ever want them to be like, oh, I can read this guy. Okay, pop, bang, he's got me,
Hmm. And do you use what kind of gloves do you use?
I don't use any kind of safety anything. I just go, you know, no
So
cups,
how you are
no
you full
gloves, no
contact or
headgear.
what then? What?
Yes, however, I'm in control enough where I can do full contact without getting hurt or hurting the other person. So, the only
But you
kind
wear
of
gloves, right?
no, I don't. I don't wear gloves.
So you don't wear gloves, but then you
No,
don't
I'll
hit
let
you
I'll
in the
let the other
face.
guy wear gloves, so that he feels that he can, let loose a bit, and try to punch me.
So you just tried to score a point then or something, or because you're not going to
Well,
connect without gloves, are
if
you?
you do connect, but it's it's very precise. There's it's a very high level of kind of consciousness where you're man, this is super hard to explain, but I've always wanted to film myself doing this but I don't dox my face, so I can't do that. But I wish that
Okay.
I could, just so I could actually show people, like, I know exactly where this person is. I know where they're moving to. And so if I throw out a strike at this time and place at this speed, then it's going to connect, and I'll be able to touch them, but I pull the punch. I don't follow through to the extent where I'm hurting them.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember doing that a number of times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think my sparring is my technique had changed a lot over the time. Like sometimes I'd have 6 months off, I'd come back and I'd train, and then having watched different MMA fighters, I'd kind of picked up some types of maneuvers and incorporated that. Like when
Yeah.
Machida was I was a proper fanboy of Lyoto Machida.
Yeah.
Um, I moved around a lot, and I would get them to follow me,
Sure.
and I'd walk them into traps. And I'd walk,
Yes.
like, I remember sparring this one guy, and he clearly wasn't that experienced, but he
Okay.
was, he was following me around. He was going for me. And
Mm.
I would move back, evade, and then move
Yep.
back. And then I
Yep.
knew exactly that once he fell into dead space
Yep.
where he threw his punch, I literally just decided to shift momentum forward, and he was
Mm.
completely open to the
Right.
point that I didn't have to even extend my arm because my if I'd have like landed this punch, it would have flattened him because the momentum
Sure.
of me even stepping forwards,
Right.
I couldn't have even extended my arm by half before the
Right.
fist was in his face. I kind of most of the distance covered was from the stepping forward. So it's
Yeah.
that kind of disposition of time, so yeah,
Definitely.
it's yeah, I
You're
do miss it, to be
describing it
honest.
well. Yeah. No, you're describing it very well because you know time and space. There's objects moving in space at certain kind of speeds and such, and so you know I guess it's hard for sort of the layperson, I guess, to maybe understand some of these concepts. I don't know or not, but anyway, they're moving, you're moving, and there's fists and kicks flying. So it's
Yeah.
quite it can be very dangerous, but it's also very exciting and fun. That's how I
Hmm.
feel about it.
It was
Um,
definitely fun. It's a physical chess match, isn't it?
you that is such a good way to put it, dude. It's a physical chess match. Yeah. um and I mean you want to be able to try to get yourself in a stressful situation physically and mentally so that in a real confrontation you're going to be able to handle working under those stresses, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So that's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
what I feel like I'm trying to create, what I call sort of like being in the zone. So being in the, so before you, like when you're kind of outside the range and maybe kind of throwing some kicks or something, and then you actually get in range and the fists and the blocks and everything is like interacting, that's the zone. But the zone
Mm-hmm.
really is when when you stay in there for as long as you possibly can, and
Yeah.
you're just working to overwhelm the other person, and that's when you're gonna, people get like tighter and more intense, and there's a little higher chance of little risk of injury, but that is the zone. And so once you're in there, most people feel like a lot of terror, there's a lot of fear that happens, because I feel like there's a sort of a psychological dimension to this, and
Mm-hmm.
you want to feel that fear and be in there for as long as you can, so that you neutralize the fear and emotionally get over it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if somebody's really going to kill you, really trying to attack you, you're gonna like organically, chemically go into a kind of a fight or flight fear mode. You see what I'm saying? That like
Uh-huh.
your brain's gonna be
Yeah,
pumping out.
adrenaline dump. I mean,
Yeah,
sometimes if you're not prepared, some
yeah.
people might be competent at fighting, but they're so scared and panicked with fear that
Yeah.
their movements crippled, their reactions are crippled, and they're just
Hmm.
literally a sit and duck. When
Yeah.
normally they would be very able to defend themselves. But
Right.
I think
Right. So
controlling that fear, like you say,
yeah.
is massively important, which
Yeah, you have to trigger the fear. You have to put yourself in a situation where you feel in danger, and
uh-huh.
then stay there as long as you can and try to like
Yeah,
go
yeah.
focus, mentally breathe,
There was
push.
always that guy though, wasn't there, that you didn't want to spar with because
Yeah, that
there's
one
there's
student in
this
the class. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, there's this one guy, and he was a little older than me, but I dipped in like in my years of Muay Thai, I kind of
yeah,
I did it on and off for a long time, but
yeah. Okay,
and I'd always get back to a good skill level.
okay.
And I got to a point where it was ingrained in me. I just needed to elevate my fitness and get my timing down again. But
Yeah, yeah.
the people that stuck with it, there's this one guy in particular,
Mm.
um, who was there from the beginning. He was
Hmm.
just it was his life, and he was there's levels to the game, isn't there? And they say that in
Oh,
MMA
sure,
there's levels to
sure,
it, and
sure.
you could see the levels that he, after a while of, me
Hmm.
dipping in and out, and he just got to a point where you couldn't really catch him. Although I almost did catch him once
Hmm.
out sparring him. But the point
Hmm.
is, sometimes I used to think, man, if I never give it up, or
Hmm.
never kind of took so much time off, where
Hmm.
could I be with it? Like how
It's
good
pretty
could I have
wild.
gotten?
Right. It's pretty wild. I feel like going on a diet. You have to keep doing it to keep the
Yeah, yeah,
value of
yeah,
it. Um,
for sure.
so I have a little bit of bad news here that I just discovered, is that my you're gonna hate me. The cord that I use to charge my phone is broken, and my
Oops.
phone is the juice on my phone is running out. So this is probably gonna be a short broadcast for me. Unfortunately, I need to go get a new
How long
one.
have you got left?
Probably, I mean, I'm like below 10% on my phone right now,
Okay.
and I've been trying
Well,
to
we
widget with it.
we'll
And
okay. Well, no worries. We'll do as much as we can. We've done
okay,
half an hour so far, but
okay.
just a quick shout out then to some guys in the chat. Hello to Max, Chief Moody, the Great White Ape.
Hmm.
How we
Hmm.
doing? Thanks
Hmm.
for tuning in. Believe
Yeah,
you've got a comment in your chat section. Maybe address that.
a lot of good buddies here. We got my friend CG. You guys need to check out his show on the Warcast on Odyssey. CG, if you want to pop in a link. Always great to see Splattercat here. It's just at the moment just these two guys. We got a lot more viewers, but those are the dudes in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
There it is. Well, let's talk some more about the get some key facts on the pancration. Then, well, hopefully we can cover an hour. See how
Yeah.
much his juice goes, and then
Hmm.
we'll see. So training and preparation. Athletes trained rigorously, combining strength and conditioning exercises with technique drills.
Hmm.
Training often including sparring, strength building routines, and techniques borrowed from boxing and wrestling. Maybe we talked about that one before, but was boxing before? How long's boxing been about for?
Good God, I don't know. Geez, I'd say
So
certainly by the turn of the last century, there's, I mean, I
yeah,
know in
but I mean, they're
America.
saying the training and preparation was borrowed from boxing. Um,
Hmm. In
Unless
ancient
it means
Greece.
that boxing. Well, yeah, but if
Wow.
boxing wasn't around, anyway, legendary practitioners, mythological figures such as Hercules and Theseus were said to
Mm.
be masters of pancration, which added to the
Uh,
sport's legendary status in Greek culture.
I'm sure.
Theseus and the Minotaur. That's one we learned in school. I remember that.
Mm.
Combat techniques. Pancration techniques included a variety of strikes, kicks and punches, grappling moves, throws and holds, and submissions. This made for one of the most complete and versatile fighting systems of its time.
Hmm.
Victory conditions. A pancration match could be won by knockout submission, and when the opponent conceded defeat, or by the opponent being rendered unable to continue. So there were
Mm.
no rounds or limits or time limits, and
Mm.
so endurance was crucial.
Yeah.
And the cultural significance of this, pancration was not only a sport, but also a demonstration of Greek ideals of
Hmm.
arete, which is excellence, and andrea, courage. So it
Wow.
was seen as the ultimate test of a warrior's skill and resilience, deeply
Wow.
ingrained in Greek and martial culture and
Wow.
education. So this seems to be, pancration seems to be something that was served as it was something that obviously it was a military thing, wasn't it? All
Yeah.
the military would have learned this, and I think we'll read later that it influenced even the gladiators. They would have been well
Hmm.
learned in the
Hmm.
art of pancration.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, from the research that I had done on it, it seemed to be just kind of a big part of Greek culture. That in a sense, the kind of the sense of manliness, that they have
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
their culture, and there are a lot of legends. I think people were really, in a sense, to become a legend was to become immortal, and I think was probably a great honor to your family and these type of things. So I think men in general were maybe looking to get that kind of legendary status. I would say
Hmm.
one of the harder parts of this, because one of the fights that they talk about went on for days.
Really? Wow.
Fighting someone for
Like
days, like.
a tennis match.
Well, I mean, I don't know any sport that goes on literally for days, but you got to think in war though, wars go on for days. Like
Yeah, they do.
soldiers. I was, doing some research on when the Romans sacked the temple in Jerusalem, and like that was a grueling battle for days, and they had they had the soldiers dismantle, like tear down the temple, like in order to
Hmm.
get to the Jews that were hiding in the temple. They literally dismantled it to get inside, and
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
that. I mean, to tear down all those gigantic stones and everything. I mean, it's just, and then just, ugh, very raw. I think people were living in a very, very raw,
Well, we've
intense
never really
time.
tasted war here, have we?
No,
I mean,
no,
our
not at all.
generation is very sheltered in that way. I mean, not
Yeah,
so
yeah,
long ago, 50, 100 years ago, world wars. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
different generation, and I think we'll
Right,
probably
right.
be a battle hardened now. Sorry, at least the next generation will be very battle hardened, and I think understanding things like pancration would be people need to start getting fit again, um,
You're right.
and making
Yeah,
sure they're comfortable with violence. I
right.
guess
See
not to
that?
exert
Okay,
it and be, you know,
let's see if I can
ju-
comment on that real quick. If you are not capable of violence, you're not peaceful, you're harmless. You see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So like all these people, oh, I'm anti-gun, or I'm peace Nick, or this, that, and da. You don't, you're not peaceful. You just don't have the ability to defend yourself, and you think that your liberal philosophy is going to somehow save you. And I'll be
Hmm.
honest, I was that guy until I had my apartment broken into and I was assaulted. And that's how I
Really?
started my journey into martial arts. I said I was never ever going to let anybody do that to me again. And it's a very harsh way to learn. It's not. People get into it, I think, for ego and power and stuff. But if you're a guy who's kind of a poet, artist, singer, songwriter, lover with long hair, like and then someone like breaks your window and breaks your door down and attacks you with a knife.
Wow.
There's you change as a person, and
I
I
can
don't
imagine.
want yeah, I don't want people to have to go through that to realize that they've got to get primal. They have to learn some primal energy. They have to be able to tap into
Yeah.
that animal spirit, if you will. But yeah.
Yeah. So, health and fitness then, what do you,
Yeah.
I mean, I've always been, I would say health and fitness has been something that has been part of my kind of identity growing up. I was always fit as a
Good.
kid. I was always
Good.
playing around on the streets, whether and
Yeah.
doing all these different games or sports
Mm-hmm.
and,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
uh, football, Thai boxing, and whatever kind of opportunity to do sport presented itself, I would try it out and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and fitness in general, gym. I was always big gym goer,
Okay.
whether it's running and whatnot. And you know, life changes, and you
Yeah.
get out of habits,
Right.
um, and then especially when you get older, it's harder to shift weight and so
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
and you pick up
When you
injuries easier.
have kids and stuff
Yes,
like that.
yeah, can
Yeah.
imagine.
Big time.
And yeah, and so you know, it's easy to get into a rut. I've always kind of said that it's building habits is key, and you can
Yeah.
build good habits or bad habits, and
Mm-hmm.
when you get out of the habit of exercise and then comfort eating and so on,
Yeah. Yeah.
you put that weight on so quickly,
Oh
and
God.
that body you worked like half a year to get, you
Right.
kind of
Right.
compromise. So,
Mm-hmm.
what advice would you give to help people to either get back into fitness and training, or
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that they never? And he's gone. I think the Donald Ken has left the building. So I was going to ask Donald. Um, yeah, I was going to ask Donald what his. Let's have a look. Double check that. Yeah, I was going to ask Donald what advice would he give to people who are looking to get back into fitness, and because I'm in a position where I'm looking to get back in my fitness again, and I think it's just as you're a bit older, and you kind of not as fit as you were before, then you need to go back in, taking little by little. I don't think you're able to sort of jump straight in where you left off, and I think you need to be kind of humble in that way and just take it step by step. But consistent effort is key, I think, little and often, and make sure that you make some small gains, step by step, little by little, and then eventually you find that um, the results that you start to see taking shape help to push you forward as well. So I'm gonna be improving my diet as well. I'm a bit of got a sweet tooth. I love a sweet like chocolate and sweets and stuff. So for me, it's like I'll get fit and then lose it again, and not get totally bad, but to a point where it's like, I don't look anywhere near what I used to. So yeah, just for general confidence, for health, really, longevity, and I don't want to grow old being one of these guys that are just don't really care for their physique. I think it's important, just for mental strength as well, mental clarity, mental energy, productivity plays an important role. And if it, I think it is kind of, if you're an alcoholic, for example, you sometimes you just have to give up drink. Like I would say, I've often said I'm a bit of a chocoholic, so I might just have to give up chocolate, because I find it hard to have a middle ground, because it just creeps back into my daily diet and then compromises, and before you know it. But yeah, little and often, and so I'm gonna start to get back into eating healthy, more regular fasting, and some calisthenics gym sessions. So, is anyone in the chat that has any experiences with fitness and or martial arts? Then let me know. I'm probably going to continue for another 5-10 minutes or so. I don't want to maybe make this into a 2-part series with Donald's full. When he's back, we can have a final session on this and finish the artwork off next week. So give opportunity to finalize with Donald again. Just comment on George K. Arhishion, the Olympic champion who won after his death. He was one of the most famous of all pancratiasts. Okay, he was a 3-time champion in Olympic Games, having won the event in 572 BC, 568 BC, and 564 BC. His final victory was also his last game because he died in the ring. Wow, imagine that. Well, yeah, that's how you're going to build a legacy, isn't it? Died in the ring. So I'm taking it he didn't lose. He lost his last game if he died in the ring. But you know what? Strength to the guy if he's willing to go out dying. Yeah. So, who did you train Thai boxing under? It was a guy called Master Lek. It was an old Thai guy. My place of birth was Nottingham. And so Master Lek was a guy that moved over, and yeah, I started training with him from when I was 16. There was a after school sessions, and I used to go up on the weekend to leisure centre there, and yeah, I was interested. I found out about it, walked in on it by accident, really. Went up to the leisure centre to play football with a friend, and I saw all these guys doing this Muay Thai, and yeah, it just looked so intense but awesome at the same time, like kicking pads. And this was when he was younger, so he tapered off in his older age. And Donald's back. Here we are.
What do you know? What do you know?
What do you know? So the show will go on.
All right.
I was going to give it 5-10 minutes. I was just talking about how I discovered Muay Thai, and I was saying I went to visit. I went to the leisure centre to play football with a school friend.
Yeah.
And then we've seen in the gymnasium people doing Muay Thai, hitting pads and so on. And this was when the Thai instructor, Master Lek, his name is, was a lot younger, and the people he trained were fighters. They were training to fight. Wow. So the level of training was intense. Like we'd have a skipping rope, a large rope from one end to the other, and you'd have to jump over it and kick the pads and jump and kick the pads. And sometimes you'd get your feet kind of the rope caught in between your toes. And we used to do other things like shin conditioning and so on. Yeah, it was intense. Wow. But I'd always come away in pain but it was
Yeah,
always
yeah,
it was a good pain, and you know, like the type of pain where the next day your muscles were sore, but they were more
yeah.
sore the day after the next day. You know, it's like
I know, I
once
know.
all of that lactic acid set in,
Right,
and
right.
you were but it was a good pain. I remember used to walking around like the house just so stiff, and I was like, oh yeah, yeah, that's a good pain. I was like, yeah,
Actually, I kind of get off on that. I know what you mean. This camera I use. That's why I don't use this camera. It's just, it sucks. But I'm just trying to
okay,
show an old book of one of my teachers in Taiwan. This is a tiger style that we learned. Um, but
tiger.
Shaolin tiger style. I don't know the word for tiger, but Chuan. Anyway, back to the question, you were saying health and stuff. So I'm not the perfect picture of health at my age right now. I was much more, before breaking my knee and having a kid and blah 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 blah, all this dumb, life, but I never
Yeah,
quit.
yeah,
I
yeah.
never quit martial arts. And so, and I'm getting back in shape, thank God. I'm back to doing the one meal a day thing. um it's my feeling is that in life, you have your full-time job, you have your troubles, your family, your projects, whatever. And it's just tough to have the energy. And so you have to overcome, it's like you against yourself, really.
Yeah.
For me personally, sparring is the thing that I love to do. It's fun and gets, you know, just kind of like punching in the air and whatnot and doing forms to me is like useless now. I mean, I do it for exercise and, just like fitness and stretching and that kind of thing.
Shadow boxing and stuff was fun,
Yeah,
but
yeah. I mean,
again,
but
you need context to it, don't you? You need.
you got to be able to interact with somebody and it has to be real. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
So, because that to me is the only it's like if you learned a language and you never went to the country that speaks the language. To me, it's stupid to be sitting in a classroom going, ichi ni san chi go roku, or konnichiwa, watashi no namae wa Donaldo desu. Like I don't want to just go
Longing
through
for
the
the day
motions.
that you meet someone in the airport to have that
You
one
gotta, yeah,
conversation with.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And martial arts or sparring per se is very, very much a conversation. Very, very much so. You can
Yeah,
create all kinds of analogies in terms of like, sentence structure and syntax and style and even humor to some extent.
yeah.
There was a time when like what I'll do is I'll change the martial arts styles that I do throughout the sparring. So I have kind of a regular go-to system that I use, but then I'll say, what if I use some snake here, or what if I use some tiger here, or tai chi, or a different. I'll toss in different techniques and different animals, and it shocks the opponent because they don't understand what's coming at them and how
Yeah,
to
yeah,
deal
yeah.
with it. And then so that's an added kind of quality that helps me, with like the situation at hand. um I was once sparring this guy who's very, very high level, like higher level animal stylist, and he was doing tiger straight away, with which is a very hard muscular style. It's an aggressive muscular style, a lot of force on force. And so I decided, why am I fighting him this way? I don't let him lead the dance. So I switched to snake, which is very soft and supple and kind of slippery in its own way, in its methods, techniques, and philosophy. And I was defeating him, and he got like, like, oh. So then he switched to snake. So
Okay.
I switched back. I switched to tiger, and then we kind of had a laugh about, like, isn't it amazing how these things interact with each other? And that's why there is a 5 animal system, is that you switch around.
Why just five animals? What if I wanted to do the giraffe or
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it's just
the
over.
funky pigeon?
Right, yeah, let's do the funky pigeon. Yeah. No, when you're I think over thousands of years, it just tradition kind of boiled it down to
So
these.
basically, those animal forms were, you know, suggestive of
Yeah,
the most likely, I guess, personalities. They probably represent the personalities of
uh,
or the style,
the
of
animals.
how, yeah.
Right. Well, I can speak to that. So, I mean, it's said that ancient Chinese martial arts, they watched animals, and they would study their movements and learn how to fight through that. And so, and then they just kind of systemize it to work within the human form. And so this is kind of the origin of animal styles. Now, if you're really committed to kung fu and you're learning different animal styles, everybody will have an animal. Like there's something about you as a person that you gravitate to this particular animal. It comes to you very naturally.
Okay.
Like this guy is a panther. Like it's just who he is as a person. So his panther style kung fu is super super good. It's kind of like some people are really good at playing guitar, and others are really good at playing drums. Those are very different sensibilities. Hitting a drum and having a complex beat with your two hands and your 2 feet is a very different thing from learning scales on a fretboard and knowing rhythm and soloing, and they're very different musical sensibilities. So,
Hmm.
like someone who's a tiger is probably a very, like, I don't want to say like an asshole, but like someone who's like a bastard, like who's very cruel and mean and strong and like a hard leader. Someone who would just as
So,
soon as
do you
carry.
not have a set style? Because I found with I was always quite well. It depended on my level of fitness as well. But when
Mhm.
I was when I got myself to a good fitness, I was always quite had a lot of output, a lot of energy. So I used to kind of walk people down and
Yeah.
slowly
Okay.
kind of learn them,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
find their openings, and
Definitely.
then just break them down. Guess I would have been more of a stand-up version of Khabib, which
So
is
that's a strategy. So a style and a strategy are different, right? You do Muay Thai as a style, which has a set number of techniques, and then how you use those techniques is your strategy.
okay.
So, I didn't, having learned, 10 different martial arts systems. I over 9 years of sparring, that was like the crucible that burned off the the chaff or whatever, that it just got down to, okay, now this is my style. There's no name for my style. It's just, if you were to take those systems and cook them in a pot for 9 years, what would it
Mm,
crystallize into? Now I tend to think of my style as long fist, but I'm very good in all ranges, like long, medium, and short range.
okay.
So I think that, like, I was always told that crane is my style. Like I have a sort of a crane type attitude in terms of the way that I fight, if you will. But I like snake a lot. I think snake and crane are very natural for me.
Okay.
um I mean, if anything, I'm more like, I mean, but this, we're talking more about like philosophy here. Like you thought of this, like, I'm going to wear this person down. I'm going to trick them into exposing how they fight. Now, in a
Yeah.
sparring or a sports setting, you have time to do that. In On the street or on a battlefield, I don't know that you have time to do that. You just have to
No,
take
no,
for a
true.
certain.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, my style, like I said, I mentioned before, my style would change a lot. Like there were times where I was very mobile and nimble. I was
Mhm,
generally quite skillful and
mhm.
fast.
Yeah, when you were
Uh,
young.
and but there were some times when I was a bit more flat-footed.
Okay.
So yeah, there were adjustments made. I remember there was one guy. We started filming actually
Mhm.
at each
Cool.
other sparring, and
Nice.
And I think everyone started playing up to the camera a bit though, so they was going
Sure.
extra hard, and
Yeah.
there was added emotions there. And I remember I was sparring this one guy, and I think he was kind of really keen to just impress the
Camera.
Mr.
Yeah.
Leck, the instructor, and that,
Oh, okay.
and and he was going hard on me,
Yeah.
and really trying to go for my face. So
Oh,
I kind of I was being a bit fancy, and I just kind of set him up. I did a spinning back kick, and I know, and I could have followed through, but I didn't.
yeah.
But he
Yeah.
didn't like the fact that I was being flash and landing, and I was waiting for it because he was already going hard, and he was getting more and more frustrated, and I knew that he would go in at some point. So I did that last blow, and I repositioned, reset, and so it's a side profile towards the to the instructor, and I waited for it, and I kind of did that thing again where you preempt that you're going to attack, and
Yeah.
and he came as I expected. He was coming straight down the middle pipe, and
Yeah.
it was like a lower the head, off center line, and
Yeah.
then I'm right-handed mostly, so my power shot, and he literally just walked onto my fist as I
Oh
elevated it above my hand. So if I landed that flush, well, which I did land it flush, to the point where he grabbed my, he actually like pulled my glove off my hand.
Oh boy.
He was pretty vexed. But if I followed through, um, but yeah, no, it's fun times sparring. I
Yeah.
do miss it.
A couple of questions here. The Great White Ape is asking me if I'm familiar with Black Fist Kung Fu. I've only seen it in like the martial arts magazines. I've never seen anybody actually do it. But I guess I've heard that it's similar to Tiger.
Tiger.
Yeah. If anyone has any questions, so like it's there's another comment here. I'm trying to get it on the screen. Northern. So in Chinese martial arts, it's generally categorized as northern and southern. So northern, you have the plains, you've got big open areas. So it's a very long fist oriented. It has like really big wide kicks and all fancy stuff. Whereas in the south, it's more mountainous, kind of like crowded cities and people fighting on boats and things. And so
Mm-hmm.
it evolved for more of a short form. When I say short
Okay.
form, I don't mean that. I mean like short range. That's what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you just have to be good at both. You got to be good at all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, be like water. Be like water, my friend.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting discussion, is about how people who get into the martial arts, they start off with this kind of like, I love martial arts movies and it's so cool and I want to be like Jet Li and all
But
this.
everyone wanted to be Van Damme, didn't they? I mean, everyone watched. And I tell you what, one of my best martial arts films was growing up. It was a film called Best of the Best. If you ever seen that,
I did years ago, but I
oh,
never.
it was amazing. Like I loved it. It was and the main guy was Tommy. He was obviously like I think he was Japanese or something like that, Korean.
Okay.
And the story was that his brother fought in this tournament, and he ended up dying by this guy who was so menacing, but he was like the best. And then they had this, and it's just a drama between the this team that were put together to represent the United States, and it was just such a good film. So it was really good.
Nice.
But yeah, there was everyone loved the Kickboxer Van Damme films, although they weren't very realistic. When you watch them back, and like it was like 5 seconds in between kicking each other, and
Well,
that's not real.
it's like people who watch war movies that were never in the military, they don't understand how it really works. Like they wouldn't.
True.
It's just an entertaining movie, and it's the same for martial arts, is that it's there to entertain you. So I don't know. I would say like I don't know. A lot of this stuff is just really for show. It's just very flashy.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
it
true.
can be used, but you in a lot of cases you'd have to be number one, really, really good, and number two, the opportunity to apply that specific technique has to appear, and you're not going to use it if you don't have the opportunity to use it. You see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
You don't just
Yeah,
throw
yeah.
all these techniques at people and that somehow it lands. It's not like that. But
Agreed. So, how active are you at the moment then with sparring and training?
well, I spar on every Monday, and I train kind of intermittently through the week. I've got a new student who comes over, and I give him some gloves. He's actually the student of another teacher friend of mine, and so I'm more like the guy that he gets to use his techniques on. So I give him
Okay,
some
right.
gloves, and then I kind of, he's a young guy, kind of a newish student. He's got some good basic skills, and then I just offer myself as a kind of a live dummy,
Hmm.
to for him to try out his stuff. And then throughout, the time, working together or sparring together, then something will happen and I'll stop him and I'll say, okay, did you see how that worked? Did you see your footwork here? Or did you notice, the triangulation, or did you notice the technique, the strategy, da da da? And so that kind of allows me to help him, you know what I mean, and have
Yeah.
fun at the same time as well. So it's really enjoyable.
So, before you were cut off, before I was asking you a question about how would you advise someone to maintain their fitness, and or get back into fitness
Yeah.
if they're wanting to literally get back
So
into shape again, and what would you
right,
advise?
right now I
Yeah,
am that guy. I mean, I'm so here's kind of a thing that I say is like, when you see people who are like super, super fit, I
yeah,
like gym bros, that whole thing. I often think like, okay, put on 100 pounds and then lose it. And then I'll respect you. But if you were born
yeah,
skinny and you've always loved athletics and you just do this because you're bored otherwise, and it's your hobby, then to me that's like someone looking at me and saying, I don't know. I don't know. It's like you flip the switch, say like as an artist, oh well, that looks like it comes easy for you. Well, all I'm trying to say here is that there's a lot of psychological and emotional elements to getting out of the hole and getting into fitness. And I'm not talking like, 15-mile marathon fitness. I mean just average, normal, healthy fitness. So, I one is scheduling. You schedule
hmm,
what you buy at the store. You don't keep any shit food in your house. You schedule when you're going to eat. You make sure you get proper sleep, proper hydration. That's easy to do. Anybody
yeah,
can do that. That's just like managing your bank account kind of. And then you start off with, you figure out what's the optimal time. Some people like to get up early and do it before work. I can't stand that. I need my sleep. But like,
yeah. I'm more of an evening trainer, I think.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Generally,
So here's the thing, like in my case, I'll try to have my one meal of the day right in the middle of the day, because if I eat at say around 5 or 6, then I'm logy and I'm tired and I'm sloshy and I'm bleh, and I don't want to work out. And so that's not a good thing. It's not a good way to do it. um Setting it up where you have music that's like, okay, I'm going to listen to this side of this album, or you know what I mean, and get some tunes. And so that that when the song is or the songs are over, then you've finished your bit, your little
yeah,
routine
yeah,
or what have you. um and the thing is, you have to think of it like, I don't have to get fit, I don't have to be super strong, I don't have to be perfect, I just have to do it today. I just have to do it today. You know what I'm saying? And like, if you look at
yeah,
it,
yeah,
break it down like that, then you're like, oh, well, then, all right, that's not so much pressure. I can do it today. And you might even lie to yourself and say, well, I'm only going to do 15 minutes. But then after 15 minutes, you're already warmed up. So you don't have to go, um,
hmm,
instead you go from there, like, oh yeah, I'm already warmed up, I'm in the mood, I'm gonna just keep pushing, and because we're not talking about people who are already fit that are like gym bros, that kind of thing, but for the average person, who is trying to get fit and get out of the slump, those are some really good techniques to do that with. So that's
I think definitely building habits is key, isn't it? So but a series of little successes. One thing I was saying before you came back is just a consistency, little and often, and build yourself up. Like you say, that's a good technique. If you for yourself to just say, okay, I'm just going to do 10 minutes, something, some kinesthetics, 10-15 minutes, and then you're likely going to do more anyway. And then just be consistent with it, I guess, and then monitor your results. And I think that when you see progress and you see yourself shaping up, it really spurs you on to do more, doesn't it?
There you go. It's a momentum. It literally is a momentum. So when you are, the weather's gotten better, and I meet a certain buddy of mine outside. We got a nice little location. We can enjoy the weather. We can look at pretty girls. That's my kryptonite. That's like our joke when we're sparring. A pretty girl walks by, and I'm distracted for 1 second, and then I get a knuckle sandwich. But anyway, yeah, having routines and make it fun. Make it fun. Like, people who are not healthy and have these issues, etc., they hate exercising. It's a slog. It hurts, it's uncomfortable, it takes time out of your day. You feel bad about yourself because you're already overweight. Like, that's a lot of extra baggage to carry. You know what I'm saying? And like, so that's why I get a little pissy about people who are already super fit, and then they look at overweight people and they insult them. It's like, you have no idea what this person's going through in their personal life. You have, oh, no excuses, no excuses. Okay, meathead, no excuses. Go back to your meathead world, where you don't have emotions and problems and, things of this nature.
Yeah.
And that's a generalization. And I don't mean to kind of come down on gym bros, because they are doing the right thing. But
Gym bros,
dude. Anyway, the thing is, but here's the whole point. It's like every person has to kind of make themselves a priority. And a lot of times it's like, oh, I got to make money, or I got to do this, and that whole slave pattern of like work and eat and sleep and drink and die that's something you got to snap out of. You have to break that somehow.
Yeah.
So every individual has to find their own thing. Somebody's like, well, I like sports, I want to play tennis, I need someone to play with, or pickleball or handball or something. That way I'm out having fun with my friends, and an hour goes by, I didn't even notice it, and I got kick-ass cardio out of it. And so bingo, that's your answer for that particular person. For me, it's sparring. I'd spar every day if I could. It's just super hard to find people that get it. Everybody is so processed through the tunnel of commercialized martial arts that they have this big fucking egos that are just stupid assholes, basically. They can't get over their own egos. It's like, I don't care, if you win or something like that. Like, you're not winning anything. You're just, what you're winning is over yourself. You want to be the better person than you were yesterday. You want to have higher skill sets, or lose weight, or all that stuff. So, and it's tough. Yeah. Like I say, in real combat or sparring, you have these egos. You're fighting a person in a sense, right? And if you kind of like take it out of the systematic, A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3 moves where everything's predictable and you're just repeating patterns, and you actually put some gloves on, or and you go, it's tough for people to number one, control themselves physically, and number two, control themselves emotionally.
and then look at it as training. You know, the other person is a live dummy in the sense that they are there to challenge you and show you, you know, these techniques work, these techniques don't work. I'm good at this, I'm not good at that. Where, and then you stop and you talk and you feel like, how did I do? How did that happen? What worked? What didn't work? What should I concentrate on? And like, so my sparring partners, for example, will stop and say, okay, well, let's focus. Let me just focus on this one thing for a little while. Just throw kicks because I want to work on blocking kicks. Okay, do that for 5 minutes or so. And then it's okay, now let's just go back to freestyle. You see what I mean? So we're
Yeah,
in
yeah.
a sense partners. We're helping each other. So that's my thinking. That's my approach.
Cool. Interesting. Yeah, I have a pull-up bar that I regularly, well, I used to regularly use. I got out the habit, but even doing like I'd walk past and do like 10 pull-ups, and
Cool.
then throughout the day, like every time you'd walk past it, you could have done like 50 to 60 pull-ups,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and that can make a massive difference throughout the whole week in just keeping a certain level of tone on your body, on your upper body, and strength.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um,
Years ago when I used to watch TV in the evenings to just relax, every time a commercial would come on, I'd jump on the floor and do push-ups for the whole
oh
time
yeah.
that there were
Yeah.
commercials, you know, and different types of
Yeah,
push-ups.
that's another very good thing to do. Like fit it in between.
Yep.
Just general activities day to day.
Yeah.
Even I remember the one time when uh, I got into a habit of because I was very conscious of maintaining like a jawline. So I used to, when I'd go for a piss, I would like be there like tensing my chin and throat and
All
stuff and
right.
doing these jaw exercises.
I think they call that mute or something like that. There's a name for that.
Yeah, but it works. It works, and I think when you get a bit older, you kind of your jaw muscles start to get a little bit looser, don't they? So
I guess. I mean, there's different, there's different things that you can focus on.
yeah,
But yeah, so
yeah. So let me do some more of the pancration then.
okay.
So we'll do some more. How pancration contributed to military culture. So combat training for soldiers, pancration techniques were integrated into the training regimens of Greek soldiers, particularly the Spartans. The combination of striking and grappling made soldiers more versatile and effective in close combat situations, enhancing their overall combat readiness. The development of tactical skills. The strategic elements of pancration, such as anticipating an opponent's moves and exploiting weaknesses, mirrored battlefield tactics. Soldiers who practiced pancration were better prepared for the unpredictable of war, fostering adaptability and quick decision making. And then final one there, for fostering physical and mental toughness. The grueling nature of pancration training built immense physical endurance and mental resilience. This toughness was crucial for soldiers who needed to withstand the harsh conditions of warfare and maintain composure under pressure.
There you go. I mean, we don't live in a time where, the next village could attack at any moment, and
No,
you
we
have to
don't.
be on top of those things.
Well, it's not villages now, is it? It's you could be walking down the street in New York and you get one of these attacks on you because you're white.
So
And speaking
right,
about it, on
that,
white attacks are increasing. Basically, it was touched on
oh,
it on the
dude,
podcast the other night.
this is my whole
So
message. Yeah, is that
this in some ways is what we need to be ready for.
100%.
You don't want to be confronted with a situation where you have a hyper adrenaline dump, and as able as you might be, you want to be able to control your fear. So it's conditioning the mental toughness, mental resilience, as much as the physical. So it's important, isn't it, to get into training and be confident in your skin and be confident in the situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you pretty much took the words out of my mouth. White people today absolutely have to have martial skills, if not carry some kind of firearm. But it doesn't have to be a firearm. There's other types of weapons, but um, it's psychological primarily. I feel you can. How do I say? You get the confidence from doing the martial arts, right? From having these experiences, and you exude
Hmm.
that confidence in the way that you walk, talk, look at people, interact, and behave. And the reality is the predators are their own kind of animal. I've worked around them for years. I when I go clubbing on the weekends, these predators are just swarming around. Like they're not the greatest neighborhoods and stuff, but I still go out and stuff. Anyway, where I'm going with this is that the kind of the street mentality of these people is that they're literally kind of like animals in the sense that they'll walk into a room and they'll scope everything out. They'll read every single person. Who is a victim? Who can I use? Who can I abuse? What can I get out of this person? Who is the alpha? Who is the beta? And then think through like where am I going to position myself? What am I going to say and do? And who am I going to be buddies with? Who am I going to watch out for? And generally, white people don't think like that. When we are in our own space, we're comfortable with we're with our people. You don't have to think like, watch out, you're going to get robbed, raped, and killed. It's like that. It's not normal. We don't need to do that, right? So we just walk around do like very naive. So you cannot be that way around people of color. And different cultures have different ways of doing things. That Muslims are different than African Americans. There's just different things that happen. Anyway, when you are in an environment where you feel like you're in danger, you kind of have to have your head about you. You have to have a sense of like, okay, what are the hot spots here? What's going on? Let's say even if you're in just a restaurant and there's some loudmouths that come in and that they're there to cause trouble. That's what they want. That's what they consider fun, and they're looking for an argument that they can escalate into a physical fight. That is their culture. That's literally what they do. You see, so
Well,
and
yeah, I think it's obviously the kind of neo-Marxist blame on white people for everything. It's really fostered a hatred towards us, which plays a massive role, doesn't it?
it's definitely there. I would say that the how do I say this? Like,
Because I think the violence is universal against even their own people.
oh yeah,
But
I mean,
I think a lot of these attacks are literally stemming from the system saying it's just okay.
I
And
totally agree. I mean, it gets
yeah,
worse and worse. Like in America, the black crime rate went from 50% to 60% in like the last couple of years. That's a
yeah.
gigantic leap, And
This Jesse Lee Peterson, is it?
yeah, I
Is
love
it?
Jesse Lee
Yeah,
Peters.
yeah. So he tells his stories about how black people and the cultures and communities were before the civil rights movement, and he says they were way better off,
Yes, yes, yes.
under segregation and so on. And
Yeah.
it's
Well,
I think it's
Marxism.
probably right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, obviously.
yeah.
Yeah.
I do. I also feel that Christianity has a really powerful effect on the black community in terms of helping them to reduce this kind of problem.
It definitely gives them a moral compass, I think,
Yeah,
to steer them in that direction.
yeah, yeah.
To focus on something. But well, I want to add some color to this, but I'll probably want to finish it off next week as well when you're finalizing your piece.
Yes.
I drew got a little monkey face in the background with a banana as a request of the Great White Ape. Thank you for that suggestion.
Okay.
So yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Well,
And
I'm
and
sorry
there
to
we
my
are.
audience
So
that I whatever my phone I got to get a new charger. But yeah, so we shall continue next week. I think this is a really
yeah,
cool topic.
and there'll be some more points as well. We'll discuss it a bit more in detail and maybe talk about how pancration actually served as a platform for Eastern martial arts as well, because no doubt it would have influenced them or had some form of impression, I think, as because a lot of the ancient Greeks migrated out and you know, I think they would have took pancration with them, and you know.
Interesting. So yeah, it'll be exciting to carry on next week in a bit more detail.
Yeah, nice one. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in, both on Donald Kent's stream, my stream. Really appreciate your support. Hope you enjoyed the show today. And yeah, we'll be back next week, I guess. Is there any final comments you want to say?
Just keep on rocking in the free world, my friends. We look forward to seeing you next time. Please follow me here on YouTube. And also, you can see my website. It's in the link at the top of my YouTube, kent-art.weebly.com. More content on the way.
Yes, and also we still have the live art commission going off, which is under the Help a Brother Out campaign. There's a link in my description. I don't know if there's one in Donald's as well, but if you're able to, you know, help out and contribute towards this live art commission collectively, suggest an idea, small donation or so, and it's literally there to help Donald out with his current situations and issues with health, family, and so on. So yeah, thanks again for tuning in, guys, and we will be back same time next week.
All right, stay safe, everybody, and God bless.